Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here from CubeKing77.com, here with my comparison video of the two flagship devices, the Samsung Galaxy S5 and the HTC One M8. Two fantastic devices going head to head. I'm going to go ahead and put a table of contents. If you want to skip to certain things, I'm going to go ahead and categorize each thing. I'm going to compare the camera, battery life, so many different things. Going to go ahead and put them head to head and then give my final thoughts on which one I will be using as my daily driver, because these are my top two phones that I'll be using at the moment. And I'm going to go ahead and pick one at the end and let you know which one I personally like the most. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a closer look at both of these great devices. Alright, so here are both devices. To begin, I'm going to go ahead and do a boot up test. I know not a lot of people do this, but I'm going to go ahead and press the power button at the same time on both devices, and we're going to see which one boots up faster. You'll see they both say powered by Android. Google actually mandated that. Both Samsung and HTC and other manufacturers do put that on their devices. As you can tell, these are both the Sprint models of the devices, so they are the standard ones. There's no Google Play Edition here. You'll see the S5 did boot up a lot quicker, actually, pretty marginally quicker than the HTC One M8. One thing about the M8 is it does have a somewhat longer boot up time, so now that they're both on, you'll see you can run through and do things. But S5 wins in the boot up test. Alright, so now that both devices are on, you'll see that the screen is a little bit of a different shape. Also, the design of the two devices are different. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the design just a little bit real quick. As you can see, the speakers on the HTC One M8 are on the front of the device. The speaker on the S5 is on the back, down here in the bottom right corner. HTC wins hands down with speaker quality, so if you're someone that listens to a lot of music out of the speakers of your phone, then HTC One M8 definitely is the way to go. Flipping it on over, you'll see there is a difference to the back. You have a full unibody aluminum to the HTC One M8, which gives it a premium feel, and it also adds some weight to it. So the S5 is definitely lighter, and also the M8 is a little bit more slick on the back. Holding it is a little bit more of a struggle in a sense of it's just more slippery than the S5. The S5 is actually very grippy. You'll see it has a nice little texture to it. I'm not a big, I mean, the look is okay. I don't mind the look as long as you get the black. The gold looks really goofy with this texture, but the black and the white look okay with the dots on the back. But it's very grippy. If you've had a first generation Nexus 7, it reminds me of that texture as well. So it's easier to hold the S5. It's lighter and it has that extra texture, but also you sacrifice, I guess, the premium feel of it and the premium look of it. Honestly, I just prefer the look of the HTC One M8 over the S5 just for aesthetic reasons. Again, a personal opinion there. You can obviously take a look at both of them and make your own opinion. On the back, you'll see you do have a camera on both of them. LED flash as well. You have the duo camera on there, which I'll get a little bit later when I compare the cameras. Down at the bottom, you have a charging port and a headphone jack down on the HTC One M8. The headphone jack's actually on the top of the Galaxy S5, and there is just a power button on the top of the M8. One thing I do like more about the S5 in the design category is that the power button's on the side here, which makes it much easier when you're holding it standardly. You'll see I can just easily reach the buttons on the side, but the volume buttons are on the side of the M8 and the power button's up at the top, so I'd have to kind of readjust my hand to press that power button. Just one little thing that I like better, but HTC does kind of combat that issue with gestures on the lock screen, where you can actually swipe up from the bottom and it unlocks the phone. You can actually double tap on the middle of the screen and it'll go to your lock screen. So those are actually really nice. I use those a lot. I very rarely use the power button actually on my M8. You can swipe down for other for some quick call figures, and then swipe to the right to get to your apps and swipe to the left to get the blink feed. I believe it's on now, so swipe from the left and you get the blink feed as well. So again, no lock screen gestures, but it does have a physical home button, which means you can press that or press the power button, so you have two options on the S5 to turn your screen on. One more quick thing to note about the S5 is that it is IP67 in that category. Basically what that means is it is dust proof and water resistant, so if you do accidentally get some water on it, it does have some water resistance. Also, with the design and build, the S5's back actually comes off, which is really nice, especially for those of you that do like to use an interchangeable battery. The HTC One M8 does not come off. It does have a micro SD card slot, expandable up to 128 gigs. Same with the M8. One thing about the M7, the previous HTC One, was that it did not have a micro SD card, and that was kind of a downer. And they finally leveled the playing field with expandable storage and included a micro SD card slot. But one downside to the M8 is you have to have a SIM card ejector, or I guess right now a micro SD card ejector, handy to go inside this little hole and pop it open, and you will have the ability to put in a micro SD card. I don't have one in at the moment. I do plan to put one in pretty soon, but you'll see if you don't have one of these, you can't pull it out, switch them out. It's just kind of a little downside to that. Otherwise, the micro SD card slot in the S5 is right here. Now, I also want to go ahead and talk about the specs of the device. Both are very similar, actually. They both have Snapdragon 801 processors, quad-core processors, and they both have 2 gigabytes of RAM inside, so not much different there. They have very similar internals. As I said, micro SD card slots as well. One difference is the screen, of course. The S5 uses Super AMOLED technology, and the HTC One M8 uses LCD technology. So, taking a look at that, honestly, it can become personal preference with the screens. In my opinion, they are both great screens. One thing I do like about the One M8 is I prefer to use it while outside as opposed to the S5. So outside, I prefer the M8. Inside, either one works for me. They're both very good screens. I mean, the colors pop on both of them and they look great. The blacks are much darker on the Super AMOLED, of course. They don't have light in them. So you'll see, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but the black has a little bit of a tint to it because it uses LCD. But with Super AMOLED, no light needs to be emitted when using a black color. So that's one little difference there. So I'd say inside I prefer the S5, outside I prefer the One M8. Also, you'll notice the screen size is a little bit different, 5.1 inches on the S5 and 5 inches on the One M8. But one difference is that the M8 has on-screen buttons here. So that does take away some screen real estate. It kind of bumps it down and makes it feel like more of a 4.8 inch screen in certain scenarios. When you're playing games, some games go full screen, most videos go full screen as well. So it does utilize the full screen when you're in certain apps. But when you're on the home screen, etc., you basically have this up to work with, since you do have those on-screen buttons. On the S5, you do have capacitive buttons down here. You have a recent running apps button along with a back button. And also the recent running apps button actually acts as a menu button. So if I wanted to go ahead and press and hold it, it will bring up the menu on whatever app I'm in. So that's just a little bit different there. I can press and hold on the home screen as well. Should bring up these settings. There you go. So that does act as a settings button. So you really don't have that on the M8. You have the in-app settings buttons you do have to press. Honestly, I'm a fan of on-screen buttons. It is a little downside that it does take away some screen real estate, but I do like the concept of on-screen buttons, and I do like that HTC went with those. Honestly, the M7 did not have those the previous version, and now the M8 does, and I do like it. So overall, I'd give a slight edge to the M8, but that's definitely a personal preference. You can't go wrong with either screen. I'll do some gaming and maybe watch a video later on in this video so you can kind of see the different colors and kind of see for yourself which one you're going to like better. Alright, another huge thing that has been compared on both devices is the camera. You'll see the One M8 did load up a little bit quicker. I can do that again if you would like me to. I just like to press them at the same time and see which one loads up a little bit faster. Looks like the M8 just has a slight edge, but you'll also see that with the M8, it does go full screen. So if you want to bring up those buttons, you just swipe down from the bottom and they come up. So in certain apps, it does utilize the entire screen, as you can see. On the S5, you don't have to worry about that with capacitive buttons, of course. So if I want to go ahead and grab this lens cap right here to take a picture of, I can go ahead and snap a quick picture. You'll see it takes them very quickly. And if I want to grab the S5's camera real quick, same thing. Once it focuses, you can just tap on that. Very, very quick shutter lag. Almost minimal shutter lag there, and you can click the icon, view the pictures that you just took. You can quickly tap on them, you can press and hold. Same with both of them. Software on them is very similar, actually. I would say that I would give a slight edge to the S5 software in terms of features. The HTC One M8, as I said, has a duo camera, which helps with depth sensing. I do go a little bit more in depth with that in my review, but essentially, if you take a picture of a close-up image and a further away image, you can kind of focus on one or the other and have the other one blurred out. The S5 does have a similar feature. It doesn't work as well but it does have a software feature that can do that. But honestly, you have a 4 megapixel, 4 ultra pixel, HTC calls them, camera on the back here, and a 16 megapixel camera on the S5. HTC argues that pixels aren't everything, which is very true. Pixels are not everything. In this case, the S5 is a clear winner, though. It takes much better pictures. I wouldn't say much better, but it definitely takes better pictures. If you are someone that takes a lot of pictures with your phone, I would definitely go with the S5 for camera. Don't get me wrong, the camera on the HTC One M8 is still good. So don't worry, don't think you're getting a bad camera if you get the M8. It's still a good camera, so you don't have to worry about that, but the S5s is definitely better. S5s has one of the best cameras in any smartphone on the market right now. Also want to make a quick note that the one thing that the M8 has over the S5 in camera quality is in low light situations. The M8 is definitely better in low light situations without a flash. It takes much better pictures in low light. So that's just one thing that the M8 has over the S5, but overall the S5's camera is definitely better than the M8's. Another quick thing I want to talk about is call quality. Both are very similar. The speakerphone on the One M8 is definitely better, of course, because you have the sound coming towards you when you look at the screen as opposed to it being on the back of the speaker. Usually I find myself sometimes holding the speaker up to my ear if I'm on speakerphone, so it's just kind of a personal preference, but I definitely prefer the M8s for in-call quality on speakerphone, but both are pretty much the same, if not on speakerphone. Although, one thing I do really like about the S5 while in-call is some of the features that it does have, and I'm going to show that real quick, and it does go with software. I'm going to make a phone call to my phone. My number is on my S5 at the moment, and I'm going to go ahead and call myself, actually. Alright, so you can see while I'm in an app, you'll get this little screen. You can still use the app while the phone call is coming in. It's great. You can answer and reject the call, and you can expand it as well. So if I want to go ahead and answer this phone call, it's going to bring it up. It'll bring up in call. I'm going to press the home button, and you'll see it brings up this little chat head-like icon here of who you're talking to, which is great. It's, I guess, like a call head, I guess you could call it, instead of a chat head. But it's really nice because you can bring it anywhere. You can use apps while you're in call. Unfortunately, the Sprint variant does not have an SVDO radio, so you can't use data while on a call. But of course, if you have the GSM version, you can. And then you can go ahead and just tap on the icon when you would like to, and it brings you back to that in-call screen. So overall, great software for in-calls. In-calls definitely goes to the S5. The HTC One M8 does not have that. When you get a call, it'll actually bring up a full screen, and you just answer the call. It does not have a little chat head. You have to pull down the notification bar to get back to the call. Now, moving right along, I do want to do a quick battery comparison, talk about my experience with both devices. The HTC One M8 has a 2600 milliamp hour battery. The S5 has a 2800 milliamp hour battery. So S5 has a little edge on the milliamp hours. That doesn't necessarily mean it is better. In this case, I did, from real world experience, which is my favorite, obviously, would be give a slight edge to the S5. I get about an extra hour with real world usage, and when I say that, I'm a pretty heavy user, so I do emailing, gaming, I watch videos, I go on Facebook, I use Snapchat, so I do a bunch of different data intensive things, and so I am a very heavy user, and I can generally get through all day with both devices. So you don't really have to worry about bad battery life with either. Both battery life is good. You just get a slight edge with the S5. Another thing that the S5 does have over the M8, as I pointed out earlier, you can take the back off. So that means you can get replacement batteries or spare batteries. So with the M8, you can't take the back off. You can't replace the batteries. So if you are someone that likes to carry around an extra battery, or maybe potentially buy an extended battery, you can go ahead and throw one in the S5. So overall battery life, I'd give an edge to the S5 with the standard battery life being about an hour longer real world use, and then also with the option to replace it. Now I want to go ahead and talk about the OS on both devices. Both of them run Android 4.4.2 KitKat out of the box. I'm sure they will be getting updates in the future as they are flagship devices, but they also have two different manufacturer overlays. The M8 has Sense 6.0, and the S5 has Touchwiz. So go ahead and go into the settings screen, which is something I would like to go to. In the settings screen, you'll see both are completely different. The S5's has a bunch of icons, has a bunch of categories, I guess you could call them, that you can expand and contract. and it's awful. Honestly, the S5 settings menu is terrible. It takes me forever to find anything. There's so many icons to look through, and they're big. You can change it to list view if you'd like to, so you'll see even the list is really long. They're not, it's just ugly. I just don't like it at all. It's a personal opinion, of course. You might like these a lot. I personally don't. So I just want to show them off and see what you think. There's tab view as well, quick settings, connections, devices, controls. Overall, I really don't like any of these settings menus. Samsung needs to do a much better job at this and revamp it in a software update, excuse me. Now going over to the HTC One M8, you'll see you do have the pretty much standard with categories down here, and all of them on one screen. So overall, I would say the settings menu is definitely better on the M8, no doubt. It's easier to run through. It basically takes from the standard Android settings menu and uses it instead of trying to revamp it in Samsung's way. Again, it could use an update. I'll give them that, but not in the way that Samsung did with Touchwiz. Now, as I said, the M8 it does have gestures on the lock screen. The S5 has gestures as well. So if I go ahead and go into settings, and again, I'm still getting used to this, so I still have to really go through and find where these gestures are. This is what I'm talking about, where I kind of need to go through and say, okay, so here's the motion settings. So you have air view, which is when you hold your finger above and it pops up a little screen, and you have motion and gestures in here. So air browse, same thing. Direct call is when you're in a message, you can put it up to your face and it'll make a call. Smart alert, it'll vibrate quickly if you have an alert and you haven't looked at it yet. Mute pause when you flip the device over, and palm swipe to capture, which will take a screenshot when you palm swipe. Also, real quick, to take a screenshot on both devices, home button, power button on the S5, and then you have volume down and power button on the M8. Just figured I'd show that real quick. So you have both of those features on both devices, so you don't have to worry about that. But again, both have gestures on them. One nice little feature that the S5 does have is this little toolbox here. You can add any 5 apps to this little toolbox. You can move this thing around anywhere. Just a little icon that shows up, and you can basically access any application while you're in any application as well. So if I want to go to the calculator, I can go ahead and press on it. It opens it up right away. Also, go ahead and go to the recent running apps screen. The M8 definitely has an advantage. It shows many more icons. You'll see that you have a grid of 9 on the M8, and then you can have up to about 4 apps on the S5. You can swipe them away, swipe up on the M8, you swipe to the left or right on the S5. So overall, it definitely looks more clean on the M8 than it does. They both have a clear all button as well on both of them, and a task manager within these recent running apps. Also, another downside for me on the M8 with the software is all these icons up at the top. I believe this might just be a Sprint only thing, so you might want to double check on this with your carrier. But it shows the data icon while you're on Wi-Fi, which takes up space. You have a no GPS. If the GPS radio is off, it lets you know. It takes up so much space. You'll see my notification bar is very awful. If I have any notifications, it just shows a plus there, so I really can't see them. So overall, not good on HTC's side with this. Again, it might just be the Sprint model. So again, double check on that. And then you got the S5s up at the top. It is much more clean. Obviously, it doesn't take up as much space with the different icons, etc. Swiping down to the notification panel, you'll see you have icons right here, which are quick toggles within the standard settings, which I like better. I do like these quick toggles being there as opposed to having to tap an extra button or use 2 fingers when you swipe down to get to all of the settings. You do have a bunch of various settings as well on the S5. You can turn off toolbox multi-window, which I'll get to in just a second. As you can see, various settings. Same with the M8 as well. You have a bunch of settings, and they are customizable. There are certain ones that aren't on there that you can add, such as screen capture and other various ones as well. So overall, they both have very nice, I guess, settings menus. They don't look too strange. I do like the look of both of them. One downside to the S5's notification panel is that it has S-Finder and Quick Connect. I couldn't find a way to turn this off. If anyone knows of a way, please let me know, but I couldn't find a way to shut those off and get rid of them, so it takes up space there, which is kind of a downside because you have space here, and you can turn off the brightness so you don't have to have that. I like to have it there if I'd like to customize it, so there's that. But overall, I do like the feel of Sense 6.0 over Touchwiz. In this case, actually previously I preferred Touchwiz over Sense, but HTC has definitely stepped up their game with Sense 6.0, and I'm going to give them a slight edge with the manufacturer overlay on the Android 4.4 software. So When it comes to the software, I'd give it to the HTC One. It feels a little bit more snappy. The S5 does have a little bit of lag at times. The gallery can be a little laggy. It's kind of interesting. It just feels like the Touchwiz software has so much to it. There's more features to the S5 software than the One M8, but it also can potentially slow it down at times. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen every once in a while. So I do prefer the Sense software. It does feel a little bit quicker, a little bit more snappy when going to certain apps and just kind of multitasking as well. It just feels a little bit quicker. Nothing like crazy noticeable, so you don't have to worry about that. But again, I just want to give an edge to the M8. Another comparison that I want to do is a quick gaming comparison. I have Asphalt 8 on both devices. Go ahead and tap on the icons on both of them at the same time. And we're going to take a look and see which one loads up quicker. Looks like the M8's had a slight advantage, not much. We can go ahead and press play on both of them. Looks like a little ad there. I'm actually going to turn this sound off. I'm sorry about that. Again, the speaker is definitely better on the M8, so while you're playing games, etc. If I go ahead and go back. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and press on the same option. I'm going to try and press all these buttons at the exact same time and start race. So it'll load up the screen. It'll be good to see the graphics. You can compare the two screens while they load up this game. So here we go. Looks like the S5 is loading it up a little bit quicker. So it seemed like the M8 loaded the game up quicker, and it looks like the S5 is loading up the race quicker. A little interesting there. So there we go. We're starting on the S5. I'm not going to be able to really race on both of these, but you can see some of the graphics. Hopefully I'll run into a wall on both of them. And then, so there you go. There's some graphics there. Overall, they both look great. Honestly, playing games, I mean, the colors look great. They pop on both of the screens. It's fluid. You don't get any lag when gaming on either device, so you don't have to worry about that. But anyways, and also you'll see that it does go into full screen on the M8, so it does utilize all 5 inches on the screen, and all 5.1 inches on the S5 as well. So you can go ahead and go home, press home on both of them, and there we go. So want to go ahead and quickly go over maybe some multitasking as well. Go ahead and press on multitasking. Go ahead and go into the camera application real quick. You'll see it loaded up on the M8 a little bit quicker. Sorry about that. Go ahead and go back. Let's say we want to go back into Asphalt. Go ahead and press it again. You'll see multitasking is just slightly quicker on the M8. Nothing crazy, but it is a little bit quicker. If I went ahead and go, oh, I didn't mean to go to the phone app, but you'll see it is a little bit different in the speeds of the two when multitasking comes, and that comes along with the overlay of the software as well. But that's about it. Taking a closer look at both the two devices, let's go ahead and get some final thoughts on both of them. Alright, so that is it. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I did enjoy making it. I just got done shooting everything. Hopefully you liked it. I hopefully compared everything you wanted to see. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. But I want to give some final thoughts. Again, both of these devices, I was debating on which one I was going to use as a daily driver. So I have made my decision, and I'm going to personally go with the HTC One M8. I personally like it better. Again, it's a personal opinion, and I've recommended the M8 to friends. Actually, my friend Joe was just like, hey, should I get the S5 or the M8? I told him the M8, and that's what he got, and he loves it. I mean, it's a personal opinion on both devices. Both are great devices, don't get me wrong. The two things that the S5 does have over the M8 is the camera, of course, takes better pictures, and also you can shoot in 4K. I forgot to mention that in video recording. And then also the battery life is a little bit better, and you have a removable battery as well on the S5. So if you're someone that takes a lot of pictures or potentially needs an extra battery, you got the S5, and then you got a great look to the HTC One M8. You have a great sound with the speakers. I do listen to music a lot on my phone speakers, surprisingly, and also use speakerphone often, so it's easier to hear with the boom sound speakers on the front. So again, I would definitely go with the M8. In my opinion, I would recommend it, but again, you can't go wrong with the S5, especially if you're someone that has the S4 and enjoy it. It's I guess an upgrade, but not a crazy upgrade. It's kind of a slight upgrade from the S4. I wouldn't say upgrade either the M7 or the S4 if you are thinking about getting both devices. I wouldn't say it's worth the upgrade because both the S4 and the One M7 are still great phones. So, but again, my personal opinion goes to the M8. I don't take crazy amounts of pictures, and when I do, they don't need to be super great, I guess. And I mean, the camera on the M8 is still good, but the S5 is definitely better. But there you have it. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you could give it a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. You can also share it if you have family members or friends looking to compare the two devices. Hopefully I gave you as much information as I could. I try, and you got the table of contents if you want to skip to certain aspects. So there you have it. If you have any suggestions for me to improve this video, leave a comment. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. All links will be in the description of the video below. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it.